Greetings, technology enthusiasts. I am Chandrahas and I am delighted to be here with you representing Cyberbrainer. Do you not believe that the technology sector is advancing at an unprecedented rate, making this an opportune moment to acquire the skills that will facilitate your progress? With Cyberbrainer, we are empowering you to take control of your own future. At Cyberbrainer, we do not merely impart your interests. We assert that information is power, yet it is the application of knowledge that distinguishes you. Our courses are meant to equip you with essential skills, whether you are pursuing data science, understanding artificial intelligence, or delving into cybersecurity. Let us commence the session and seize the future today. Thank you. Let's examine Guidewire, a cutting-edge insurance program and its uses for accelerating insurance processes.
Suppose we retrieve something right after retrieving any information from the third-party system. Suppose we are retrieving a vehicle information. Suppose a claim has been made and user has. We have a vehicle number for which the claim has been occurred, right? For which the claim has been created. For that particular vehicle number, we are calling a service just to check any previous claims on that particular vehicle. That we can figure out, is there any fraudulent case or not? Right? It can be. There can be a third-party system which is storing all the claims information, past claims information. We will be calling that past claims information with this information vehicle number, and they will be sending us the report. The report which they might be sending us, we might be need to. Just there can be multiple things which we can do with that report. Either we can create new fields in the database. We can add that report in the database. Right? Either we can store the data that particular report in the database. That can also be done. Or either we just want to read that report. That's it. And we want to do some other action items on that. That can also be done. It depends on the requirement to requirement. Either we want to store the data in the database, whichever we are retrieving from the third party, or we just want to read the data from the third party. That's it. We have discussed about these 4 integrations. For PolicyCenter, we have multiple integrations like Policy Rating System. Generally rating, what is the rating system? Rating system is something when someone enters the policy data, right, it will calculate what should be the premium amount of it based on certain factors. Those factors we are providing as an input to the rating system. And that rating system is calculating the premium amount and sending the premium amount back in the response to us. Generally in real time, right, in US, most of the US projects, Guidewire doesn't calculate the premium amount. It's the rating system which calculates the premium. What Guidewire do is, the rating system is provided by the third party. Do you have any? I mean, what are the rating systems that are generally used? In US, Clarendor is the famous rating system. What is that? Clarendor, I'll write it for you. I mean Clarendor, they have their own rating system. Guidewire system just integrate to the Clarendor. They'll provide some of the factors, input factors, to the Clarendor in the request. And in return, it will calculate the premium amount and it will send the response, and in response, it will send the premium. Most of the insurance companies, they use this system. I have seen 2 insurance companies which are using this system. You can see this Clarendor. Will that be a question in the interview saying, what is the rating system? Yes, it can be a question, But this question is specific to the Policy Center, not for the ClaimCenter. Because premium amount generation, right? All these things are in the same center. Doesn't handle with all these. You can see Clarendor has multiple services. They provide multiple APIs which we can integrate to. Guidewire utilize this. But I have seen a Guidewire has its own rating engine also. But most of the clients are leveraging the information of that external rating engine. Because suppose some ex-insurance company, right? Just a second, Jana. Suppose someone is using the legacy system. Some insurance companies not using Guidewire, they are using the legacy system. For legacy system, like mainframes, mainframes doesn't calculate the premium amount. They don't have any rating engine for them specifically. The mainframe, what they do is they just take the data, consolidate the data from the user, and then that data has to be sent to some different system. Let's suppose a Clarendor and Clarendor is doing that calculation. Now, when clients are upgrading themselves from mainframe to Guidewire, right? They don't want to risk their premium calculations because it is something where financials are involved. While upgrading their system from mainframes to Guidewire, they want to keep their rating system to be the earlier rating system only. That they will leverage the Guidewire only just to consolidating the policy details from the user, and that detail has to be sent to the Clarendor and they will do the rating. That's how their integrity is also kept. And their system is also upgraded to the mainframe, from mainframe to the Guidewire. But Guidewire has its own capability of rating as well. It's like if someone is implementing a new line of business, completely new line of business, they are not upgrading it. Then most of the clients use Guidewire rating engine as well. And it's a part of policy. Where are we? We were in the infrastructure. You said we have application server. The application server, like, does it run on WebSphere or? Application server, we have Jetty in our local. We have Jetty server. Not in local, but when you are talking about client thing, we can have Tomcat, JBoss, anything it can be configured. And as a developer, you will not be having those roles, right? No. It will be done by the DevOps team. So, not the development team. Development team is not supposed to tweak into those things. I have done as a developer, I have done those things as well. Deployments, everything configuring Jenkins. Because I was into end-to-end role at the initial phase of my career. Right? I have done all these things also with Guidewire. Setting up a JBoss server, setting up the Jenkins, setting up a pipeline wherein even someone checks in the code automatically, the build will get generated automatically. It will be deployed, all these things. But these are out of scope of the Guidewire developer. These are something if you want to just explore more, right? You can explore these topics like cloud. We have cloud integration, right? If you want to explore more, but basically there are dedicated DevOps team for each and every organization which would be taking care of these. These servers have to be on-prem or they can be cloud. These servers up till Guidewire 10, these servers are on-prem only. But after Guidewire 10, there is a capability of on-cloud server as well. Whereas we don't need to have on-prem. But right now, Guidewire Cloud, there are less than 5% or 2% of the clients only using Guidewire Cloud. Because transitioning is something which takes time, right? And Guidewire Cloud is very new to the industry. It hasn't gained much of the popularity yet from the implementation point of view. The clients might be moving and they might be moving in the near future to the cloud, definitely. But right now, most of the systems are on-prem only. Maybe in 2-3 years, it will be a completely different scenario. We diverted a little bit from the topic. I'll jump on to the integrations because you want to focus more on the ClaimCenter. Let's jump on to the ClaimCenter integrations. What are the integrations we can have? These are not the mandatory integrations which each and every claims center should have. These are just the examples, just to make you familiar what can be the type of integrations. F. Then first notice. Application captures first notice of loss information which is imported and transformed into claims. There can be an application right. Whatever application we are working on, Guidewire application right. The end user won't be having the access to that application right. It's only for insurance company employees. The customer service representative is using that Guidewire application UI. But suppose as an end user I own a policy and I want to file a claim. I don't want to call the customer service representative. I just want to file a claim using mobile app. I would have a system mobile app which is different from the Guidewire system. It will take the data from me and that system will send the data to the Guidewire system. This is also a kind of integration. In this way, our Guidewire system is acting like as a backend and this mobile application is a front end. This is also one integration. Policy administration system. As soon as, suppose, let's say a claim has been filed and there is a tab of policy number, what is the policy number? User enters the policy number. I want that as soon as I enter the policy number right, all the policy details is populated from the PolicyCenter to the bill claims. My claims. As soon as I enter the claim policy number in the ClaimCenter, my ClaimCenter will check with the PolicyCenter and pick up that policy, convert that policy data into some JSON or XML file and it will get back to the ClaimCenter. This is also an integration. Check processing system. It can be the integration with the banks. When we are creating a payment in the ClaimCenter, right? For suppose issuing a claim has been cleared all its stages. And now we want to issue the check or the payments to the claimant, right? We'll issue the payment from the ClaimCenter and that information which we are giving to the ClaimCenter, right? To issue the check. That will go to the bank and the bank will process the further claims. This is also an integration with the bank. These are the possible integrations which can happen in the ClaimCenter. Generally, how do these integrations happen? Now, we have just not talked about the functional things. Now let's begin to more into this sort of things using the technical terms. how these integrations will take place. First thing, and the very old approaches, integration takes place using the file system. Let's suppose say I have a shared repository and I want to integrate something with X system to the Y system. I want to share the data from X to Y. What is the procedure? If I'm using a file, if I'm using this technique, the X system will create a file with the data and it will place to the shared repository. Place that file to the shared repository. Now Y system will come to the shared repository and pick up that file and check the data from that. Its sharing is happening, but through a channel means there is a shared repository. Or there is a repository where we are which can be accessible by both the systems. And this is how they are exchanging the data interchangeably. Generally, we call this system as if we are creating the integration using this right. We'll call it as FTP File Transfer Protocol. You might be aware of FTPs, right? This is one way, but this is not used that much frequently. They will be used for batch processing. Mostly it will be used for in the batches. And a second approach is database table. It's same. Apart from the shared repository which we had here might be, we can have a shared database. Wherein we are just adding the field of the database there from X system. And then through the batch process, batch in the entire day, in any time of the entire day. It is just checking that shared database table. Is there any new row created in that or not? If yes, it is created, then it will pick up that data. This is also a second approach of integration, but this is too much old approach. These are not used that much frequently, but still these are in use. Also, there can be an approach that we can use integration, table and file together. The data will be kept to the table and from the table it is fetched and created a file because let's suppose our external system is not able to read from the table. It has the capability to read from the file. The file will be generated from that particular row and that would be picked up from the external. This is also a type of integration. Now we have a method named remote procedure calls wherein there would be a direct communication between the external system and the Guidewire application. It would be synchronous means. Synchronous means whenever we are sending the request from Guidewire to the external system, it is expecting for a response. It is not like it's sending to the external system and it's not waiting for any response and it will perform the next task. To perform before performing the next steps in the Guidewire application, it will first clear out that this integration should be successful and it can be only confirmed when it gets a positive response. We have to create APIs, publish the APIs and send the request and all these things. I mean for those external system should be exposing those APIs and Guidewire application will be consuming those, right? It can be either. If it is inbound integration means it is initiated from the external application, then it will be live wide will expose some issues. And if it is outbound integration, then external system has to expose the API, then we will consume it. This is a thing that is synchronous integration, but in Guidewire we have an option of asynchronous integration as well. Asynchronous integration means it will trigger the integration and it will not wait for the response. Let's take an example. Suppose in line number 1 we are calling the external system. Calling external system. In line 2 we are creating some data or we are calling a method. Calling a method. Any random method we are calling. If we have an asynchronous integration, right, it will trigger this integration and without checking the response itself, it will go to the line number 2. But if we have a synchronous integration like RPC call or WSL using the AP as right, direct PIs, if we have a synchronous call, then it will trigger the integration and it will wait for the response. Until it doesn't get the response, it will not go to the next step. Web services, does Guidewire support both SOAP and REST service? Yes, Guidewire support both. At the same time providing the APIs, can we create a SOAP API from Guidewire? Yes, we can create. We can create a SOAP API and we can create a REST API also. Both the APIs we can create in that, and at the same time we can consume SOAP or REST. These are the integration mechanism which we are going to use. There is a method named plugin. These we have talked about different mechanism like web services. You can see here, right? Here you can see an example of the web services. Here external system is calling the API which is published in Guidewire and then it is consuming. And then we are sending the response. Event messaging is an asynchronous integration, right? We have to do it using event fired rules, but event messaging is asynchronous. Startable plugin. Startable plugins are the listeners. It will always listen to the incoming messages. Generally in Guidewire, startable plugins are not used extensively because it will result in the increased bandwidth and the increased memory size. Generally, the preferable is we have to utilize all these other techniques, not the startable plugins. Because it's always in the listening mode 24/7 for the incoming messages, right? It will consume more value, right? That's why Guidewire doesn't recommend much startable plugins to be written. Now we have a batch process. Batch process is nothing but suppose we want to connect to an external system. Let's suppose there is a reporting system. It's from the ClaimCenter also. There is a claim reporting system wherein we need to just send the data, whatever data we have got from the entire day, right? Whatever claims we have got in the entire day. If we have a requirement that we are at the end of the day, there should be some functionality that on our trigger of a button or automatically, that data will be transferred to a third-party system, right? If we have some periodic type of requirement, right, that this particular logic has to be done periodically on daily basis or weekly basis, or then we'll create web services. Post batch processes. And we have a concept of predefined plugin as well. What are predefined plugins? Suppose there is an integration, right, there is a document integration. We have talked about document storage, right? If there is a requirement, suppose there are multiple environments. And in those multiple environments, we have to trigger that document integration, like document management integration, which is pointing to different URLs for those environments. We don't have to explicitly mention different places, different code for different places. We can write a single plugin for that particular integration, and we can specify the environment name and the URL which needs to be triggered for that integration. For each environment, we can mention the different URL, and we can mention the username and password also. The code is one, but it is applicable to multiple environments and places. It is used in those kind of functionality. And we'll be talking about these things in detail later on. There are multiple predefined plugins which are already defined in the guide back, and we'll be seeing its utilization as well, because predefined plugin will be used in event messaging as well. We will be talking about it further. This is a table. It has summarized whatever we have discussed in here, right? It has pretty much summarized everything. Web service are used for inbound, or messaging can be outbound, and it is asynchronous. Startable plugins are also asynchronous because these are just the listeners. These are inbound. Bash processes are scheduled. Because if we have a requirement to trigger something on a periodic basis and integrate the third party on periodic basis, synchronous. Synchronous, when what I see is we are not providing outbound. Does that mean we are not providing any API? Don't get it. For synchronous. No. This is right now. This needs to be updated. I'll update it. Even for outbound you should have. Yes, we have it. We have it now. I'll update it. It's not there, but the slide is a little bit wrong. It's present for outbound also. But Guidewire will not. But the Guidewire has to create the client class for that. It doesn't have to create any API in case of outbound, right? Generally what happens, right? Outbound integrations, right? They will be happening mostly. 90% of the integrations would be happening with event messaging. Most of the outbound integrations. And I'll tell you the reason also when we'll be discussing the event messaging, right? Why there is? It's a best practice to do that. You are not feeling well, I guess, right? I think allergies. I get that. Give me a second. That's pretty much about the high level on the what are the integration techniques we have in Guidewire, and we'll be talking about each and every technique in detail. Here in the syntax is right there, talking about all the syntaxes like go to classes blocks. Let me jump onto the blocks because this is a new concept and I've already shown you from the port how the blocks look like. Sign how to create a block. This is also an example of a block. You can see here blocks. Blocks are initiated in a parenthesis. You can see here context note is a Eric E to the contact entity. and we have multiple methods on this, which will be using blocks here. What the block is doing here is we have a bare method which is using a block, and our block will check for the where then a contact node type is general. It will return those values of the, basically it will iterate and then see we don't need to write the for loop, and then its condition, its everything is done from the bare. Similarly, we can have, I can show you from here as well. The go to scratchpad, what are the methods available on the area? Let's suppose I have this area, right? I have created this AB person inside AB person. I have this history entry area, right? I'll print AB person.history entry. You can see this is also block all match or arm. How do you? It's already written block. Please do like, share and subscribe to our channel.